Now that I've finished making my map, pretty basic map, I'm gonna show you how I set up my wave-based maps. It's pretty easy. It's always hard to explain like in text. I'm gonna try to make it straightforward. I'm not gonna be talking in depth about how logics work. Kersher has made a great video going in detail about a lot of the logic props and how logic works. So if you're interested about that and you want to know more, definitely go check out his video. I will put the link to it in the description. So for step one, we're going to want to set up the platforms and also the main teleporter. So I already have a teleporter. The teleporter prop is in the other category right here. This is where the enemies in our wave-based map are going to appear in the map. So I have it here in front of this door. The setup for the wave-based map happens outside of the map where the player can't see it. It can be like right here on the same level, like to the left, or it can be under. It doesn't really particularly matter. And then you also want to make it kind of a little bit of a distance so the player can't shockwave and accidentally hit the enemies that are just standing out here for the wave-based section. So you want to make sure, once you have the teleporter, also make another one, or you can just make another one by hand over here. It doesn't particularly matter. This one actually is in the wrong. This is supposed to be on its own. So I usually have 3 platforms, so like this. So this is what I have, and then here's the teleporter, which you link. I'm gonna link it. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can leave it like this, but I prefer to make it, I guess I'm just my little OCD is kicking in, I suppose. But I try to make it perfectly aligned with the platform, the sides of the platform. And then we're going to, this one will be different. This is pretty much already done with step 1, because now step 2, we're gonna set up the first wave. One thing to note is do not leave them in default idle. Although it probably won't break anything, you know, it's better to not take chances. For some reason there's a bug with default idle. It can cause them to float a little bit when you load into the map. They like float up in midair. I don't know why they do that. Literally, to fix it, just choose any other animation, preferably not the VR box. I usually prefer to just do cook wait. One thing to make sure there is room between the teleporter and the enemies for your wave, because if they're too close, they're immediately going to teleport when you load into the map, and it's probably gonna break and it's gonna look goofy. So just make sure there's a little bit of space. You want to make sure to put them on the same faction, because if you're not, they're just gonna attack each other, which means they probably won't even teleport because they'll just stand here and go to town on each other. Take the teleporter again, duplicate it, and put one behind them. And again, make sure there's space in between. And then make sure you always link your teleporter over to the main one where they'll teleport. If you're curious on the setting for the teleporter, you obviously want to have active checked, teleport enemies checked. NPCs try to use, it doesn't matter. I guess it's okay to keep it on. I have no idea if it works or not, to be honest. And hide when inactive doesn't also matter. I keep it checked anyway. And play entry sound and play exit sound, those are all up to preference if you want those. Doesn't really change much. I usually keep them. I'm going to duplicate another enemy because we need an enemy that will be basically the sacrifice, literally. We're gonna have him get killed by a trap, which will activate the wave. It will actually bring these guys into combat, and then that's how you start your wave-based map. This is where this extra platform here comes into play, because what I do is I like to give him the bed 1 animation, and we're gonna put him down onto this platform. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna go to the arena props and get the spinning blade trap. For the stats for it, make sure to turn play sounds off just so you don't hear it, and put the inactive time to 5,000. You can leave the active time the same and the inactive progress leave it as 0. And then what we're going to do is you're going to want to angle the trap where the blade will cut them. I usually prefer to have the blade just be like pretty much the middle of the body. It doesn't really matter as long as it hurts them. This design that I've made, that I always use for my wave-based maps, does to make it as flawless as possible is we're going to put a teleporter on top in a minute. So even if, and I've seen it, it's happened in multiplayer, co-op especially, is they'll actually survive the trap somehow, and they'll only be missing an arm. So what happens, so what this method does is, if that does happen, they will automatically teleport. They'll teleport onto this platform, or they'll try, but I'm gonna have a teleporter right above him that teleports him into the map, so it'll just look like he joined with the rest of the people over here. Once you have this, make sure, the last thing is just go ahead and tilt it so the blades are up and down. We're gonna take the teleporter, we're gonna have to change this just a tiny bit, or you can leave it, it doesn't matter actually. You could actually just technically leave it. I usually just do this. A little bit floating right above, so when they teleport right above, they immediately enter the teleporter and they teleport into the map. For your very first wave, depending on what you're going for, you probably won't be using a trap. It depends on what you're going for. For the first wave to activate, you can use delay timer, or you can use a button in the map that the player can push, or an actual logic zone that the player can enter to activate the wave. For my sake, I'm gonna go ahead and put the delayed timer. For logic, we're gonna need to get a logic zone. You're gonna want to attach this to all of the wave enemies, and you're gonna need a logic zone for each wave. So this is for the first wave, and then you're gonna want to attach it here, of course, because when he gets sliced, that's gonna make these people come into the fight. And that's pretty much it for my first wave. Now I can show the actual enemy tracker for the second part. For setting up the second wave, here I've got my second wave. It's pretty much the same process. This guy down here, you can just duplicate him, move him a little bit over, and we're gonna duplicate the trap, move it on over, and then position him so he gets sliced by the blade. Don't duplicate this, because then it's gonna keep the same logic connections it had for some reason. So it's just pretty easy as well to just make a new one. Go ahead and connect everyone in here, and connect the pirate that will get sliced. Also, don't forget to place this as well sometime, just in case if he lives. So now for the enemy tracker, now I can finally show this, what you're supposed to do with it. You want to take it, connect it to this trap, and then connect it to all the enemies in the first wave, just like this. For these, you want to keep all must die on. The only time you would not need this, and you would use the kills needed, depends again on what you're going for. Maybe, for example, you want the wave to come in a little more early. So for example, I have 9 pirates. If I want the second wave to come in after only 7 of the 9 pirates are killed, then you could use that option. So it really depends. For the sake of the tutorial, I'm just going to keep all must die on. This is the same concept you use for the third wave, the fourth wave, the fifth wave, and however many waves that you want in your map that you can fit in there. I'll go ahead and just whip up the third one, for example. So here's my third wave, same exact setup. Go ahead and duplicate the trap, duplicate the pirate, place him where the blade will cut him, move the teleporter over him, move the teleporter as well behind the new wave, make sure to link them, take the enemy tracker, duplicate it, attach it to the trap, attach it to all the enemies in the second wave. Also, don't forget, you gotta make another logic zone and connect all the enemies here for the third wave. And there, now the third wave is good to go and it works. And then if I want to do the fourth wave, same exact thing. From the second wave to how many waves you want, same concept. Really easy once you get the hang of it. Now we're gonna go ahead and test the map so you can see that it works. Here I'm in my map. Since I'm starting my first wave with the delay timer, I have to wait 20 seconds for them to actually spawn in. But if you were to use a button, you could press a button in the map to start it, or a logic zone, like if I walked behind the bar and it started immediately for some reason, you could do that. For the sake of my map, I'm doing the delay timer. See, after 20 seconds, and you see that? Did you see the first person that spawned in mid-air and like waved his arm around? That was because he survived the trap somehow. thankfully, because of the teleporter, it doesn't matter. He's still spawned in. He literally just looks like he's part of the rest of the wave. As you can see, it worked.
What the hell?
I waited 20 seconds. Once these 8 perish, the second people should spawn right in.
Hey, yo, the pizza here.
Now that they've defeated him, yep, here comes the next one. Oops. Alright, and then the third one should come in. Here they come. There you go. Works perfectly fine. And some people like to just do the more simple way, and there's nothing wrong with the simple way. I just think, like, in case of somehow they survived, like, what people will do is they'll do the same thing. They'll have the platform with the wave enemies on it, and then they'll have the platform where instead of having them down here, they'll have them... That is not an enemy. They'll have them up here, and they'll have the trap like this. So it basically slices their legs. This will work if you want to do that. Probably it is quicker, even more simple and easier to do, less work, I suppose. If you do this method, again, don't leave them in default idle. If you want to stay till the end, I'm gonna show now how I set up my little scenario things with the same exact method, pretty much. Alright, so for this example, I'm gonna have the piano player here that I have attached to her own individual logic zone, so she doesn't come into the combat unless provoked. I'm gonna show you how I make it so after a certain amount are killed, they come into the play. What I can actually do is use the pirates for the example here. So instead, I'm just gonna go ahead and get rid of the timer. I'm gonna unlink the timer. Basically what I do for these, you take the enemy tracker, I'll place it over here. And this is where this option comes in that I mentioned earlier, where they all must die. I don't know how many people I have in the saloon, but I'm not gonna do too much. We're gonna do after 5 kills. For this example, I have it linked to her own, but you would have this linked to this person here, basically. It's the basically same exact concept, but instead of putting it on like wave enemies, you would just have it linked to her. So I'm just going to include her in that logic zone, for example. The annoying part, especially if you have a map that uses a lot of primitives, is when you go to connect everyone in the map, well, there's like red circles everywhere. So usually a little trick I like to do is I like to get a point of reference. Usually people in chairs are the best ones. We'll use the piano woman as the point of reference. I'll make sure I'm on number 3 for edit characters, and I'll drag over the whole map, and I'll just bring them out like this. So then that way, it makes it so much easier to take the enemy tracker and just connect like this. Just connect them all just like this. But once you have them all connected, you can just drag over them all again, and then that point of reference helps you place them back easy. So for example, I had her right there, and if I check the animations, there you go. So now, basically what I just did now is when any 5 people of this in this whole entire map right now, any 5, as long as 5 are killed, doesn't matter who, it will activate the trap, which kills the person and activates her to join into the fight. If we go ahead and just go ahead and start fighting, I've killed 1, I've killed 2, 3, 4.
Why are we still here? Just
5. Now give it some time for the trap. There you go. Now she's joined into the fight. That's exactly how I do that. Pretty much same exact method, just a little tiny bit different work with the enemy tracker. Thank you for watching. I hope it was helpful. And if anyone plans to make a wave-based map, I wish you good luck.